It is Tuesday, August 25th, 2026, coming to you from America's beautiful North Coast, from the shores of Lake Superior. This is the American Dissent. I'm your host, Sam Martin.
And I'm Jen Schultz.
Before we dive in, please subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button, leave a comment. It all helps as we begin our journey here on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, please leave a 5-star review. Thank you ever so much. On today's show, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent appears to be melting down. Now that military options have failed against Iran, the Trump administration has apparently assigned the winning of the war to the Treasury Department and Bessent, whose attempt to meet that assignment has him making wild pronouncements, both in print and in front of cameras. Bessent is also flailing with the mandate to settle the bond markets. His small $4 billion buy last week barely made a dent, and now he's planning on using much more complex schemes. Most analysts appear to think these schemes will be similarly unsuccessful. Sticking with finance, Trump plunged ahead with his tariffs on Canada after talks broke down. A deal appeared to be in reach just a few days ago, but now it's being reported by the New York Times and Bloomberg that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick intervened to kill that deal at the last moment. In the wee hours of Saturday morning, a 50% tariff against approximately $20 billion worth of Canadian goods went into effect. Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada has treated this move as an attack on the country, and Ontario Premier Doug Ford called Trump a bully, saying Trump could kiss his ass. Canada has announced its retaliatory tariffs just today, explicitly targeting goods that will affect economies in states where Republicans risk losing or failing to gain Senate seats. Those states include Alaska, Iowa, Maine, Michigan, and Ohio. Turning to domestic politics, it was a very bad weekend for House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. Jeffries took to NBC News last week to say he's against the Medicare for All bill, just as Yale University released a remarkable study touting its many benefits. This weekend, the New York Times got the massive scoop that Jeffries held a secret meeting with Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The report led to a firestorm within the Democratic Party, with many roundly condemning the meeting. Just today, Jeffries announced that he will appoint Jared Moskowitz, one of the most outspoken pro-Israel Democrats in elected office, to be the top Democrat on the Middle East subcommittee of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. The timing of this with the Kushner meeting is alarming. Just to be clear, the Democratic Party base is overwhelmingly in favor of Medicare for All and overwhelmingly against support for Israel and, of course, Jared Kushner. To say that Jeffries is out of step with the base, well, that's an understatement to say the very least. The Supreme Court, in a shadow docket ruling, has decided to remove lower court injunctions stopping Trump's plan to overrule vote by mail in states he doesn't like. It is not a ruling on the merits of the case, but it does add yet more chaos and uncertainty to the upcoming elections. Minnesota is one of the states involved in the lawsuit. Lastly, RIP to the great Dolly Parton, who passed today at the age of 80. In addition to being an insanely talented musician and songwriter, she was a passionate supporter of women's rights and human rights more generally. She was famously an ally of the LGBTQ community and distinguished herself also as a defender of trans rights. She will be missed. These headlines and more up for discussion on today's Dissent.
Oh, Sam, we have so much to talk about, but let's start at the bottom. I'm so sad to hear that Dolly Parton passed away today. I thought she would live well past 100. So sad,
I
but
know.
what a
She was so
remarkable
vibrant.
person.
Yeah.
I know, what a remarkable person. I mean, I think she was inducted to both the Hall of Fame for rock and roll and country music. I
Oh,
remember
I've
her
no doubt of
the
that.
pivotal movie Working 9 to 5. Oh my god. I mean,
Yep,
so
9
many.
to
She's such a
5.
songwriter and coming out of just severe poverty, you're right? And being able
Yep.
to
Yeah, her father
make
was
it.
illiterate.
Mhm.
And she went on to found that program that sent books to underserved kids and all that stuff. I mean, that meant a lot to her and her father was still alive when she started that foundation. So, but no, yeah, she was an incredible person. I mean, she did her best to avoid politics, but uh, you know, defending human rights and all that kind of stuff seems brave these days. And she did it
And so
until her dying
famous.
day.
And, I think she married her husband I think they stayed
Oh yeah.
together for their entire life when she was only 20 years old. And
Yeah, he died only a year ago, so she didn't outlive him by
he was like
much.
a asphalt contractor, just like normal person, normal dude, stayed out of stayed out of the headlines. And, she was still able to have a successful career. Although I don't think she had children, but
No.
she had a lot of godchildren and,
Yeah, she said she didn't
nephews from her
want any.
siblings.
She didn't
Yeah.
want any children. Yeah, it was her nephew who did the video announcement. He was also her head of security. So,
But great, 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 great writer of music, songs.
oh
Great
yeah,
songwriter.
there's a lot of songs um that are famous by other musicians that she wrote.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Whitney Houston's biggest song, "And I Will Always Love You," that was Dolly Parton. Actually, Dolly Parton sang it herself, and it was a hit for her. But Whitney Houston covered that Dolly Parton song, and it became, you know, that it was the hit song in that movie, The Bodyguard,
Yep.
which forgettable movie, but it's one of the best-selling movie soundtracks of all time, just for that
Wow.
song.
I remember her duet with Kenny Rogers, "Islands in the Stream." I can't sing, so I won't. But yeah. Anyway, I'll miss her. I'll miss her.
No, incredible artist. Yeah, I was looking at there's a picture from when she was inducted or when the Lincoln Center, inductee or whatever in 2006, and there she is. On her left is the great conductor Zubin Mehta, who is longtime conductor of LA Philharmonic and the New York Philharmonic, and on her right was Steven Spielberg, the director. So it's like, wow, like these are some big, she's definitely in that kind of company for sure. And it's an extraordinary career and really long. So yeah, it is very sad to see her go. She had canceled an appearance in Las Vegas not long ago, and she was hoping to reschedule it, and then of course this happened. So rest in peace, Dolly Parton.
And then Bessent, man, that man
Oh,
has a
he's
lot on.
what a
That man has
what
a
a
lot on his
turn
plate.
of.
He's got a lot going on his plate as Treasury Secretary, like more than normal. But he, what struck me is this. I think he calls it Operation Economic something Fury. Operation Economic Fury. Even though people
No,
should know,
he's
though.
not calling it that,
Yes,
is
he
he?
is. But
Oh
people
my
should
God.
know that we don't have a lot of financial ties with Iran. We haven't in a long time. And so what is the U.S. trying to do? I don't know, our remaining allies or countries we think are still our allies impose economic sanctions on Iran.
That's
And
right,
then
secondary sanctions.
he's getting pushback privately from Wall Street and others. And so he comes out in a comment, he said verbally, well, we're going to use, diplomatic means to talk to our allies about these economic sanctions. There'll be a long runway to do this because I'm no idiot. I know about the, financial implications for this globally. We don't want to destroy the markets. Basically, he knows that this is not good. And he's saying that publicly.
He knows it's terrible. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just to fill people in. So Bessent is Trump and Pete Hegseth have completely failed at the military part of this. So they're going to Bessent saying, "Hey, you do it. So he's saying, oh, we're going to do these crippling sanctions on Iran. It's like, well, haven't we been doing crippling sanctions on Iran for almost 50 years? Yes, you'd be right if you asked that question. But also these secondary sanctions that you mentioned on countries that continue to do business with Iran. Among that list of countries, this is really important. China and nearly every single U.S. Gulf ally, these Arab states, nearly every single one of them would be on that list, and Turkey. Basically, the only country in the Middle East not on the list, probably, it would be Israel, which also doesn't do business with Iran. So does Bessent really, and China, by the way, as we mentioned last week, China already announced that they have no intention of cutting off their ties with Iran. And the Gulf states, they're not going to have a choice. The U.S. military is unable to protect them. And then Iran has already announced that if you do this, they're considering an act of war. And so if the U.S. can't protect them, and an NBC analyst just said over the weekend that that 15 U.S. bases in the region are completely unworkable. They're basically done for. So there's no way the U.S. military is going to be able to protect these Arab states. So if they go against Iran, they're sitting ducks. So how are they possibly going to comply with this Scott Bessent insanity? And I do mean insanity.
Okay, first of all, this is the Trump administration. Let's not just blame Bessent. He is being told to do this by Stephen Miller and people around Trump, right? Because if he was using his own brain, he would not do this. There's no way he would do this.
Well, he has that option, and then he can get his ass fired.
Yeah. But no, they have to be loyal to Trump, and they have to enact whatever marching orders they get from the White House.
He could, not do this. He could not act this way. I mean, he has that option. He is his own human being, regardless of who his boss is. But he's kowtowing to Trump. So this is as much him as Trump. Of course, the buck stops with the president. I'm going to keep. But he is the one writing these op-eds. So he wrote an op-ed in the Financial Times, and while it's behind a paywall, and I am sure as hell not giving them, some outrageous amount of money they want, I do have an excerpt here because he's comparing the situation, Jen, to Pascal's wager. Anyways, let me read you this excerpt.
I'm sure he wrote that too, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably used AI.
Yeah. But anyways, here's what he wrote in the Financial Times. In the 17th century, French philosopher Blaise Pascal gave enduring expression to the dilemma beneath this temptation. He understood that uncertainty does not absolve men or nations of divine judgment. In fact, it demands a more exacting appraisal of risk and imposes a higher price for error. Pascal's eponymous wager now applies to Iran's lifelines, nations that, in courting reprieve from Tehran, continue to replenish the very regime from which they seek protection and now exceed the limits of America's tolerance. The president has created the conditions to leverage every agency, every authority, and action many assumed we would never summon. Any remaining tie to Tehran will hasten the economic ostracism of countries and entities, whether that tie be purposefully constructed or willfully ignored. And if, as the regime's grasp on power crumbles alongside its economy, Iran resorts to military action against U.S. forces or its Gulf neighbors, make no mistake, President Trump will respond swiftly and decisively. The world should understand that our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains the tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone. Pascal considered salvation to be a choice. As a great wave of American resolve comes ashore, are Iran's enablers willing to wager their future against it?
Oh my gosh.
This is like cult level craziness. This is madness. Because Pascal's wager, of course, is either you can believe in God or not, and the benefits of believing in God outweigh the benefits of not believing in God and being wrong. That's Pascal's wager. That's it. So apparently, according to
So
according
Trump
to
is
Bessent,
God. Trump
or
is
the
God.
United States is God.
I think Trump
right.
would like to be God. Well, if I were writing a list of things to do to unelect Republicans and help the Democrats, doing these dumb things, destroying our economy, I mean, that's what they're going to do. And that's what they are doing. They are driving people to vote Democrat in the midterms and probably in 2028. That's my assessment. Especially when we're going to talk, I hope we talk about Canada. Our one neighbor ally that maybe was still with us, basically we declared war on in terms of the tariffs.
Yeah.
So
we'll get to Canada.
We'll
get to Canada. But first, as if that Financial Times editorial weren't bad enough, Bessent took to television, took to a press conference, and in front of a whole cascade of flags, as you'll see.
I saw those.
I'm going to play the end of this press conference because a reporter actually asked a really, really excellent question right at the very end. It might not have been the end, but after the question and answer, Scott Bessent quickly walks away from the press conference.
Smart man. Okay, we got to find out who that reporter was. Give them credit for asking a good question.
You described this as an economic D-Day, but D-Day wasn't a threat of an invasion, and the U.S. didn't give a timeline to Germany. So why not impose the sanctions today?
Well, we are giving everyone the opportunity to remedy bad behavior. Why would I want to blow up the global financial system?
That's exactly the comment that I meant to. Yes, that's it. Why would I want to blow up the whole financial system saying, yeah, if we actually do this, we actually do this right today. Oh my gosh. He's just playing along thinking that this is never going to happen. Our allies are, secretly will tell them that this is just all theater and don't really do anything. Who knows? But
well, he seems to be suggesting that today I don't want to blow up the entire global economic system, but next week, let's blow it up. I mean, he recognizes.
I'm sure he's taking a lot of heat for saying that, what he just said. And that's what's being picked up in all the media. Yeah, for sure. He's
mistake.
Saying the truth out loud.
Because he's not a dummy. I mean, he's acting like a dummy, but he isn't one.
Yeah. No. Well, he doesn't know who he's calling on in the press corps, so he's not getting the press training he needs. I'm surprised they didn't say I need to call on only this reporter or these reporters or influencers.
Well, I mean, he should. That was not a fastball. I don't think it was just. I know,
but it's
question.
Not one of their softball questions that they usually get. But whatever. Okay, good question from the reporter.
But so he word salads for a little bit and then just walks away. But yeah, the news out of that, he said, why would I want to blow up the global financial system when asked why he didn't put these sanctions in place? Because his op-ed in the Financial Times said that this would be like D-Day. And as that reporter said, D-Day wasn't pre-announced. It just, it wasn't the threat of an invasion.
If it wouldn't have been successful, Sam, right? But
why would we want to win World War II?
It's a stupid metaphor, analogy, whatever. It's not. I don't know who came up with that, but it doesn't work. And it's good that people are calling out these inconsistencies and getting them on record to say honest things. But the other thing that happened, apparently there's another opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal in response to Bessent's actions in the bond market recently, where they were buying back bonds.
What's done to that?
So this very wealthy, influential person who mentored Bessent basically takes him to task for, why are you intervening in the bond market? Stop it.
Yes. And his comments were also suggested to be AI as well. AI written.
Are you serious? Well, he's a busy person, I'm sure, trying to make millions of dollars every day, but yeah.
Yeah, why, when we're talking about the potential end of the American economy, why spend time actually writing?
People don't read anymore. Do you think they spend time writing? It takes a long time to write something well.
I know, Jen.
Right.
I'm very well aware.
Their time is money. Come on, Sam. They don't have time to sit down and actually write something themselves, but
God.
whatever.
But okay, so so he did this small, as you pointed out last week, he did this $4 billion buy of bonds, which, you know, a drop in the bucket of $40 billion.
But remember, just to try to buy down interest rates, and it wasn't successful. That's the
right.
Was the goal.
But so now that from what I understand, these complex schemes he's using are about buying long-term bonds are maturing and ending, rather than re-rolling them into long-term, he's moving them into short-term in hoping that rates will go down so they can then take those short-terms, move them back into long-term. And it's kind of this complex scheme. But here's the thing. From what I can understand, based on reading a few different articles, this is exactly what the United Kingdom was trying to do to save the pound in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how Scott Bessent made his fortune?
Did he speculate on the
He
currencies?
bet against the UK's plan succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
He bet against exactly what he's trying to do. Now, this was the United Kingdom in 1992.
So he
Very
knows,
different than the United States now.
He knows that it's not going to be successful, but he's trying everything.
Yeah, and every one from this guy you're mentioning, his name is escaping
so
me.
I think listeners should know, though, you don't need to understand the bond market. This is going to affect people because interest rates are going to continue to go up, and it's going to be very expensive to get a loan for things like a house. That's how it's going to affect people.
Right. And part of that is that interest rates were down for so long. It just created this borrowing spree among businesses. And now you've got this industry. The entire stock market right now is being held aloft by AI and the AI sphere of businesses. They're basically speculation on AI is basically propping up the entire stock market. Now, when these guys got this massive tax cut from the Trump administration, and considering that interest rates have been low for a long time, I mean, yeah, they're going up, and they weren't increased, by the way. I saw an interview with Neil Kashkari, who's the head of the Fed in Minneapolis. He was one of the few who voted to increase interest rates because prices keep going up, and that's the Fed's mechanism for cooling down price increases is in increasing interest rates. But anyway, so what all these AI companies are doing, and I explained a little bit about this last week, is this is all fake money they've got going on. These are businesses that are basically designed to fail. OpenAI and all this stuff, and they're going to drag down all these other companies with them. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that this is the case. And basically, I've spent all weekend reading articles with lots of numbers in them about AI and all this kind of stuff. But the point is that part of what they've done is they're selling bonds as well. They're selling debt as well. And that's part of the bond market overall. So in other words, they're selling bonds, buying bonds. They're buying debt also, because it's cheap for them, and they got all the windfall from tax cuts from the Trump's big beautiful bill. So they got all this extra money that they're buying more debt with. This is causing bond rates to go up, which is going to cause interest rates to have to go up. So in fact, AI, in addition to being extremely unpopular generally, and the data centers are hugely unpopular, AI is also driving up mortgage rates, auto loan rates, and all other rates. So AI is doing so much unbelievable damage to regular people. So the fact that all these articles written by, whether it's Scott Bessent or the guy in the Wall Street Journal or whatever, being written by AI is just all part of this soup of horribleness that is the current joke of an economy that we've got.
Let's just add on all the crap that's happening, what we're doing to Canada, and now they're retaliating.
All right, so as I said, Trump plunged ahead with his tariffs on Canada. So, that deal, Trump said a deal has been struck. We're all good. We're going to sign it. The tariffs aren't going to go into place. But as I said in the headlines, Commerce Secretary and despicable human being, Howard Lutnick, who, by the way, has gotten unbelievably more rich than he already was.
And his children.
and his children because they bet that Trump's initial round of tariffs would be overturned by the Supreme Court. They bet big on that, and they made a killing, billions and billions of dollars in personal wealth for him and his children based on that bet. So now he comes in to intervene and kill the deal last minute. And so because, the Canadians walked away.
They asked for something else when he came into that room. And Canada just like, that's it. We are not going to accept those unfair, unreasonable requests.
So what it was Canada has, they have, Ford factories and other auto factories in Canada as well. And part of the deal was lowering existing tariffs on trucks created at those factories. And Lutnick said, no. Can't lower the tariffs on the trucks. So it was protectionism for pickup trucks and things like that. That's all it was, basically.
Canadians buy a lot of U.S. cars, vehicles, trucks.
And a lot of and they make a lot of auto parts that.
What does this mean for our listeners, people in America? It means that $28 billion of goods and services are going to be under this tariff. Things that we use from Canada. They make a lot of wood products. You want to build a house or add on or remodel, your costs for materials just went up extensively. So that's a huge tariff on a lot of things people buy, not just maple syrup. There's a lot of other things. But I'm told by public radio this morning, but don't worry, Minnesotans, not on hockey sticks, because most of our hockey sticks now are made in China, apparently. So, hey.
And Trump would never think of imposing sanctions on
other countries, other Asian countries,
China.
I believe, on hockey sticks. But it's a lot. And so they retaliated and said, just today.
Yep.
And they're imposing tariffs on our products. But is it 50%? Yep. It's a lot. So
I've got it. So it's graduated tariffs anywhere from 15% to 50%. And it's targeting more than 700 U.S. made products. This includes aluminum products, furniture, clothing and apparel, and also just everyday purchases like seafood. What states do you think that affects? Cheese, cosmetics, toilet paper. Alcohol. I mean, a lot of people
they've been
immediately
boycotting things. They've been boycotting American products. They're probably not going to double down on that. So, you have a little startup industry you like to sell over online to Canada. Man, your sales are probably going to go down.
But so with this specific targeting that Canada is doing that they announced today, they're explicitly trying to make life difficult for Republicans running for Senate in Alaska, which would be Dan Sullivan, who is behind in the polls to Mary Peltola. Iowa, which would be Ashley Hinson, who is behind in the polls. It was shockingly, by the way, I cannot believe she's behind in the polls to that turret.
I'll just say this. I'm very optimistic about Iowa, let me tell you. So
all right.
Let's keep our eyes
Maine,
on that state.
where Susan Collins is behind in the polls to Troy Jackson. Michigan, where, by the way, and I didn't put this in the headline, but Michigan polling has kind of like for like a week, and centrists were cheering about this. Centrist Democrats were cheering about this, and of course Republicans were really happy. But for a week or so, Mike Rogers leapt up in the polls. Well, polling has kind of reverted back to what we expected. Abdul El-Sayed is back anywhere from 4 to 7 points up in a couple of different polls from this past week. So it seems to have corrected itself.
Let's not focus on polling for a while.
But I mean, again, that's the only guide we have. And then Ohio. So what I mentioned that just because El-Sayed is ahead of Rogers and Canada's, targeting Michigan, and then Ohio, where this is a very close race, but it looks like Sherrod Brown is ahead of John Husted in Ohio.
The Canadians basically said, some of the electeds basically said, we need to target the red states too. Like make them suffer. So they're thinking about charging more for their energy in states like Texas and Florida.
Yeah, that was Doug Ford's suggestion, but it looks like what they're actually doing is instead of targeting red states, they're targeting
the Republican races,
states with very close elections.
States. Yeah. They're not stupid. Those Canadians are smart, let me tell you.
No, of course. Some of the best Americans are Canadians.
Oh my gosh, Sam, if maybe Trump secretly wants the Republicans to lose so he can work with the Democrats and do more progressive things. Who knows? What is he thinking? What are the people around him thinking? That maybe they're worried about the future of our country and they want Democrats to save them. I don't know. Maybe they regret creating this
I don't think this is well thought out. This is like well thought out strategy. It's just, you see, when Lutnick did what he did, the Canadians walked away. They're like, hell no, and they walked away. And Trump was so incensed that he's like, okay, to borrow the words from Admiral Farragut, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. It's like,
he said something about we've been treating them like a 51st state, and we're done.
Well,
they should pay blah 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 fairly, but.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
there
been
was
saying that since early on in the presidency.
Basically, Canada said, we're done. We are not negotiating with the U.S. They write their contracts in pencil. Like they're not credible anymore. And, this has repercussions. And the repercussions are now the rest of other countries, the rest of the world, they're not going to want to they're not going to want to negotiate with us either. And they'll just say, we're not going to negotiate with the U.S. And we're done, and we're going to retaliate too. And what is Canada doing? They're making deals with China. So it's destroying our credibility. It's destroying our strength, and it's going to destroy the American dollar.
Well, China's beginning to lead the world in all sorts of ways, but solar energy and also electric cars. They're well ahead of the rest of the world.
Robotics. I keep seeing every day news about their amazing robots they're building.
No, that I'm significantly less excited about. But
my kids are very excited about it.
They're showing you the videos
because then they don't have to do chores. There'll be robots for all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, I doubt they're going to be like.
I'm like, you won't be able to
Rosie the maid in the Jetsons.
You won't be able to afford them. I just told them you're not going to be able to afford these robots. They won't be cheap for another 50 years. So,
or
we'll see 100.
But no, I think the Chinese electric cars are so desirable. Like the people that have experienced them, they have nothing but great things to say, and Canada wants them. Canada wants them in their market, and
maybe they'll build them in Canada.
We are never going to get them.
And maybe they'll build them instead of Ford trucks. Who knows?
You see? I mean, this is the stupidity of all this. And so, by the way, Canada has conservatives that are a lot like Donald Trump. And in fact, until recently, a lot of them saw themselves as Trump allies. And that includes the premier of Ontario, which is their version of governor, is premier of the province of Ontario, which is the most populous, I believe it's the most populous province. It's where Ottawa is. It's where Toronto is. Mm-hmm. So Doug Ford, part of a very famous family, not I don't think it's related to the Ford automotive family, but it's a very famous family in Canada and in Ontario. So he's been likened to Donald Trump many times in the past. He's a hard-charging, foul-mouthed guy who just says it like he sees it, kind of a thing, and he's very conservative. But he's come to hate Donald Trump, and he had some strong words, which I alluded to in the headlines. But let's take a listen to what Doug Ford had to say about what just happened.
Well, he can kiss my ass as far as I'm concerned. We're going to go at him full steam. And we buy 400% more cars than anyone in the world. Maybe I have an idea. We'll get Danielle Smith on board so the cars that they're manufacturing won't be able to fill up because we'll be controlling the oil and the gas going down there. And maybe what we should be doing is charging him triple on the oil, triple on the potash, on the uranium, on our metals and our rare earth metals. That's what we need to do. We need to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. He's arrogant. He's cocky. And, as Ronald Reagan said, if you come to a draw with a bully, What stops that bully from coming after you the next day and the next day? And that's all Donald Trump is a bully. Well, he's going to have a rude awakening. I'm going to throw everything in the kitchen sink.
Wow. I wonder what the I wonder if he got any pushback on what he said, but wow.
No, not from the interviewer.
I
don't
think
know
the
if they
polling
did.
suggests Canadians are 100% behind Carney and Ford and them pushing back on Trump. I mean, I think they have the majority of Canadian support in these comments to.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a rally around the flag effect
Yeah.
in Canada.
I mean,
for sure.
they say
Certainly.
their nationalism is survival. You know, this is how they're going to survive, how they're going to protect jobs and the economy. So let's see if it
Yeah,
works.
and isn't this the opposite of like what we? It's like huddling around our own borders and getting more nationalist. It's like going backwards.
This is how bad this Canadian tariff policy is that Trump is invoking. The Republican running for governor, Lisa Damoth in Minnesota, did she push back on Trump when the ICE surge happened in Minneapolis and ICE killed two people, shot others, injured many, infiltrated groups? Did she push back? No. Guess what? She's pushing back and saying, Trump, these tariffs are going to hurt Minnesotans. This was her statement today. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's pushing back on this. She gets it. She's also not stupid, right?
Yeah.
Canada is important to Minnesota, Michigan, the northern Midwest, which is, mostly our audience. This is
but also Maine, where Susan Collins
any state touching the Canadian border.
Yeah, Susan Collins very I would say obviously publicly very like in a very pronounced way decided not to go to a rally that Vice President J.D. Vance did in Maine. I mean, she stayed the hell away.
When was that? Today?
No. It was over the weekend.
Before these
No.
After
the tariffs were announced. Yep. Tariffs were announced 12:01 a.m. Friday night going into Saturday morning. So Saturday morning. Yeah, I mean, the fallout was pretty swift. I mean, Carney said, I need to find the quote, but he said basically, this isn't an attack. This is an attack. We have to respond to this as though it is an attack on our nation. So they got that rally.
I will say people in Minnesota are rallying behind Canada. I see signs and flags that say, we love Canada. We love our neighbors to the north. People have been interviewed in Canada, business owners, resort owners saying, oh no, we're seeing a lot of folks from the U.S. coming in. I don't know if we're going to see Canadians coming to our resorts in the U.S.
And this is, I'm trying to remember, Jen, if we've talked about it before, but it's very much worth pointing out that one of the Minnesota has a very large and very vibrant Native American community. And one of the, like so many other places, one of the ways that they make money for the tribe and keep their people fed, as it were, is gaming and hospitality. And a lot of these tribes are bands of Ojibwe and are in northern Minnesota, and they have a lot of casino and resort hotel type things in northern Minnesota, and a huge part of their customer base is people driving down from Ontario.
Especially Grand Portage, because it's right near the border.
Especially the Grand Portage band, which is right like 30 minutes south, even less than 30 minutes south of the Canadian border. It's right there.
Stone's throw, for sure. Yep.
And they rely. I mean, you and I talked to them. They told us how much of the business is Canadian. Yep. It's a lot. And so this is hugely damaging to all kinds of different communities, but especially the Native community up there. And it's so, I mean, this is just so bad. And, a lot of older folks have relied on getting cheaper generic medications from Canada. I'm not saying that those are not, as far as I understand, those are not being tariffed at the moment, but what's the, by the way, Trump has said that he plans a new round of tariffs for New Year's Day. And
well, we should also back up a little bit, because he's using He's using, let me go to my notes because let's see. He's using the Section 338 of the Tariff Act of 1930. A president has never used this before to impose tariffs. But you have to show at some point, especially if this gets litigated, and I'm sure there'll be lawsuits against these tariffs, you have to show it's a response. You impose duties in a response to, quote, unreasonable and discriminatory trade practices. So they're going to have to show that, I think, to be able to use this Tariff Act of 1930, Section 338.
Yet more work for
more
already
work for the
swamped
lawyers.
Attorney General of Minnesota,
him
Keith
too.
Ellison. My God, he's been suing this administration left and right.
Along with a lot of other states.
Along with a bunch of other AGs.
They're going to be getting to know, those AGs are going to be getting to know each other and their staff pretty well.
Oh, they already do. I mean, Ellison was asked recently about what they're doing about the dangers of voting, and if the Trump administration is going to send goons to the voting booth. And Ellison says that the AGs have met and they've got a plan. They've got whole teams working with each other across the country, working on responses and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to say, because I was just about to say, he wants to add to the tariffs on New Year's Day. He wants to add cars, trucks, auto parts, and steel. Mm-hmm. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, would be massively, massively damaging to American consumers, especially the auto parts and steel bit.
But in Minnesota, we produce taconite, which helps in the steel production, heats the furnaces, etc. So there'll be a lot of folks in labor, at least in Minnesota, and where we also have mines in the northern Midwest that want tariffs on steel. So. And we've always had tariffs on steel. I mean, we've always had them. So it's not like this is a new thing that Trump is doing.
Right. But
they're higher.
50% across the board.
Yeah.
Across the board. 5-0.
But we also have to remember that his past tariffs, his tariff strategy, before this, his tariff strategy, Trump's strategy, was thrown out in court. And they had to pay back over $160 billion in revenue to folks that had to pay these tariffs that were found to be illegal.
Well, to folks, let's be very clear, to importers, usually huge businesses, a lot of whom sold the rights to those reparations to Howard Lutnick and his sons. That's how they got so damn rich recently, is because Howard Lutnick and his sons, well, his sons mostly, because Howard Lutnick had to stay in the background, his sons went to all these importers and all these massive corporations that were going to be hit by these tariffs. And they said, hey, buy insurance from us. We'll cover the cost of the tariffs. Meaning that if the tariffs got reversed, they'd get all that money. And so so if you wonder, if the tariffs have been reversed and we're getting refunds, and you, the consumer, you're not getting SHIT. You're not getting nothing. Lutnick and his kids are getting it. These huge corporations are getting it. And by the way, they raised the prices. You think they're going to bring them down? I was, there's a trade lawyer I saw an interview with who is saying that, listen, this round of tariffs on Canada may or may not be as damaging as you might think to the American consumer. What's going to be more damaging is all these companies using these tariffs as an excuse to raise prices, even though the tariffs don't require them to or don't necessitate it. Prices are going to go up simply because of greed. Simply because of greed, just like we saw in COVID. Why did a lot of prices go up?
People get used to the higher prices, and prices rarely come down. So that's the problem. Yep. Oh, we've just spent an hour talking about these tariffs and economic policy. Maybe we should talk about voting by mail.
Well, yeah, since we brought up Keith Ellison. So the Supreme Court, as I said, had a shadow docket ruling where they said no. So there were two lower court rulings putting an injunction against Trump's plan to prevent the U.S. Postal Service from delivering mail-in ballots to states that don't hand over their voter rolls to the feds to get permission to allow various members of the communities to vote. Trump wants to have control over who in the states gets to vote. And that's explicitly, the United States Constitution explicitly puts voting in the hands of states, not in the hands of the federal government. This is part of the reason that Trump's had so much trouble getting the Save America Act through Congress.
So back up a second, Sam. So the United States Postal Service put out this proposed rule for comment. And they basically said, we're going to compare the list states give us of eligible voters to the folks that request ballots by mail. And if they're not on this list, we don't mail them a ballot. And Trump is saying that they have every right to do this, that states don't have to use the United States Postal Service to do vote by mail. But if they want to, they're going to have to go through this process if this isn't struck down by the Supreme Court. This policy by the United States Postal Service.
Right. The Supreme Court is not ruling on the merits of this. They're just saying, no, we're not going to allow the lower courts to stop it until we hear it. Well, when the hell are they going to? They're moving like molasses. The elections are coming up.
It could come out any day, though, right? This ruling on this other clause, I don't know, but
well, I mean, and in the lower courts, they only stopped one of these injunctions. So that's even more confusion.
Well, what did Keith Ellison say about it? Maybe that will clarify.
So Keith Ellison just today went on the show called The Majority Report, and they asked him about this. I mean, presumably he was on to talk, and I mentioned this last week. He was originally scheduled to go on the show to talk about, and he did, to talk about his lawsuit against Texas Governor Greg Abbott about this guy Castro who shot Minnesota citizen through a closed door behind which were a bunch of children as well. And this guy got shot. And then Castro claimed that he was in fear of his life. And then video
he was getting beat up by a broom
right. And
or
then
a
video
shovel,
came,
and it wasn't.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all BS. It was a complete lie.
Yeah.
So Abbott's refusing to turn him over. So, Ellison's suing to get the guy here.
To extradite him. Mm-hmm.
And if Abbott lets him go in Texas, the guy's already made it clear that he's going to escape to Mexico. He's going to run away to Mexico, and it looks like Abbott's going to allow that to happen. So the lawsuit is to stop him from being released while they have this argument. Okay. But anyways, because the Supreme Court decision came down yesterday, they asked Keith Ellison about it. So here are his comments, and I'll play. It's a good answer. It's about a 3-minute answer, and we'll let the whole thing play because it's important.
Since you're one of the 24 attorneys general that filed this complaint and are a part of this lawsuit, what's your response to the Supreme Court's decision from yesterday?
So the Supreme Court's decision was bad. It was not good. The dissent were right. For people who want to get a grip on what's going on, read the dissent. They're right. Essentially, what's going on here is that states have the responsibility for time, place, and manner of elections. That has been the history of the United States. It's in the U.S. Constitution. Now, the president, all on his own, has issued an executive order that he wants to set up rules at the department, at the U.S. Postal Services, that would allow them to sort of screen acceptable voters, all under the guise of stopping non-citizens from voting. But really, he's trying to usurp unto himself the right to say who gets to vote and who doesn't by mail. Now, we believe that is an unconstitutional intrusion into the state's prerogative under the Constitution. Maybe Congress could do it, but the president sure can't do it. And so we sued, saying that the president's on our territory. Here's what the Supreme Court does. They say, it's too early. It's not a final rule yet. You guys are jumping the gun. It's not ripe. Ripe is like a legal term. It doesn't just apply to vegetables. It applies to law rulemaking too. And so basically a lower court enjoined, meaning they stopped the administration from this weird scheme to try to collect voters through the mails. and the Supreme Court lifted it. And so bottom line is that that by lifting it, they're creating chaos, they're creating trouble, they're creating difficulties for everybody. And interestingly enough, the U.S. Postal Services just finished their ruling. So now there is a rule, which we will absolutely be challenging and have strong constitutional basis to do so. This Supreme Court and Republican-dominated Supreme Courts over time, I don't trust them, but we litigate as hard as we can. And I think it's important for people who watch your show to criticize the court for this bad ruling, because what they've allowed to happen is give the president who wants to take over elections, federalize elections, a thumbs up in terms of at least continuing to try to do that. I'm confident we will win in the end, but how much hell and confusion will they cause between now and then? That's the problem.
Okay, I think those loud noises were. I think his phone was blowing up with text messages.
Yeah,
and it
were
was
you
dinging, right? Yeah.
were you reaching out to him sometime
No.
earlier today?
No,
Or-
but I mean, I know the Constitution. This violates the Constitution's separation of powers clause. I mean, isn't it that simple? I mean, you
well,
can't.
yeah, and it
I mean,
violates it states quite explicitly, that states control elections. Period.
exactly. Not the Postal Service, not the President of the United States. This is an executive order. He does not get to control elections.
No,
I mean, we
not
gotta-
through executive
this is-
order. Well, as Ellison said, maybe Congress, but definitely not just the president on his own to do
Exactly.
something like this.
Right. I mean, this is just, I mean, people should be screaming out their windows about this. Holy man. Taking
the
away
court-
people's right to vote.
Yes, this court is a criminal enterprise. I mean, these people are horrific, and they've been doing this. I mean, this
Not
is the
all
same
of
Supreme.
them. 3 of them voted against it. The 3.
Yeah, of
appointed
course,
by
yeah,
Democrats.
fine, good. And as he said, read that dissent. But
Right.
I'm not talking about those 3. I'm talking about the court as an entity. This court is a criminal enterprise. They're the same court, different people, same court that essentially overturned the results of the 2000 election and allowed George W. Bush to become president for no good reason. In a ruling they said should have no precedent. They specifically said this ruling should have no precedent. So, yeah, these are terrible, terrible people. It's just like, and it's mostly Trump appointees, or it's largely Trump appointees, not mostly, but 3 of them.
Let me just tell you, like 1 in 3 voters voted by mail in the 2024 midterm or the election and then the midterm before that. So a lot of people vote by mail, Sam.
Yes,
It's not rare. President Trump
Yes.
votes by mail.
very famously, Donald Trump votes by mail every time. He's voted by mail his whole life. Yep. And
Oh my
and what's crazy here is there's a huge number of older conservative leaning voters that vote by mail. Huge number of them. How many of them are going to be affected by this? And also states like Minnesota's early voting goes live in like what,
Yeah.
3 weeks, something like that, very soon, like
Well,
September soon.
Here, I got a list of
mid-September.
states that use voting by mail. Oregon, 100% in 2022 votes by
Yeah.
mail. Washington State, 99%. Hawaii, 95%. Colorado, 95%. Utah, which didn't respond to Trump's executive order on ballots, not part of the lawsuit, but Utah, 90% vote by mail. California, 87%. Arizona, 80%. Vermont, 68%. DC, 63%. Nevada, 51%. Michigan, 37%. Minnesota, it's much smaller, but a lot of states, the majority of people are voting by mail.
Yeah.
And a few counties in Minnesota exclusively vote by mail. So, because they're so rural.
Yeah, and it's also convenient. Well, in those states that have really high numbers, vote by mail is the default.
Mhm.
You get a ballot in the mail whether you request one or not. And if you want to vote in person, you can. You just,
And so
Just
far, Minnesota
throw
and many
away
other
the-
states are not giving Trump and the Postal Service their voter rolls.
no, and nor should they,
No.
because this is clearly a plan to for the federal government to decide
Disenfranchised
who gets to
voters.
vote. Yep,
Exactly. Not good. But I will say vote by mail, it's not like a partisan thing. Just as many Republicans as Democrats vote by mail and independent. I mean, it's not like maybe it's skewed more towards Republicans vote by mail. I'm not sure, but
perhaps.
we should
but also,
we should get the data on that.
well, I'm sure they're going to be looking for names that don't sound American.
Yeah,
or
right.
whatever.
They're
They're looking
not going
for
to just right.
ethnic names and then be like, oh, well, I don't think this person should be allowed to vote. That's obviously what this is. This is a racist BS is what this
Oh
is.
my gosh. What else were we going to talk about today? What other depressing news do we have
Well,
for our
I think
listeners, Sam?
all of this, Jen, all of this makes me angry because what Republicans do is just horrible. But what's really, really gets me going, what really pisses me off like nobody's business, is when Democrats aid and abet this nonsense. And I fully believe that one of the most prominent fascist collaborators we've got going is the Democratic leader in the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries, I mean, and so Yale University, I want to ask you about this because you're the Medicare expert, but Yale University published this study. Now, it hasn't been peer reviewed yet. It's a scientific study that hasn't been peer reviewed yet, but the conclusions are pretty dramatic. That switching to a Medicare for all system, in other words, getting rid of private insurance companies, would save the United States $1.04 trillion per year and save 114,000 lives per year. Holy cow.
First of all, we spend a little over $5 trillion total on healthcare. We're the most expensive country for healthcare in terms of how much consumers pay directly and indirectly. And so this is about 20% savings, which is huge, $1 trillion for Medicare for all. And most of that savings is coming from their epidemiologists at Yale did this simulation, and they said, what would we save if everyone had Medicare for all? And that is because Medicare pays more reasonable prices to hospitals. And if we charged everyone those same prices, like under a Medicare for all policy, we would save a lot of money because prices are what drives most of our spending compared to other countries. And so the reason Hakeem Jeffries probably is not endorsing Medicare for all is because he's catering to his hospitals in his state. Same as Chuck Schumer, who caters to hospitals in New York, because they do not want to see their prices fall, because that means their profits will fall or their revenue if they're a nonprofit. So that is what some of these Democrats are doing.
State,
not all Democrats, Democrats who are concerned and have issues, are really on the side of hospitals. And hospitals know that if we implement Medicare for all, that means they just cannot keep charging whatever they want. Right. But we have to have more reasonable prices. So Democrats, Republicans, right now it's Republicans actually that are doing more in Congress to look at hospital prices, not Democrats. I know it's strange, but it is. So people are going to have to put pressure on politicians, their electeds, to say, hey, we can't afford our healthcare anymore. Let's look at those prices.
Right. But it's also, it's not just hospitals they're catering to. Medicare for all will get rid of private insurance private health insurance companies as well. It would just end that as a business, which to me, that's great. Get rid of them. They're awful, but they give a lot of money as well. It's
not necessarily true that they will end insurance as we know it. Yes, but will we still have insurance companies? Yes.
Well,
the government,
there's all kinds of other insurance.
It's just how we finance healthcare. So you could have insurance companies which are buying providers. This is why they're buying providers, because they have to change their business model in case we do something like Medicare for all. They will still manage networks and, coordinate something. I think many of them will still survive. They're just going to be offering a different type of business.
Right. They won't be health insurance companies anymore because
all the risk is taken. All the risk is basically we're all in one pool, essentially. And the government says this is how much we're going to reimburse these providers. But we do have something called Medicare Advantage, which is privatized Medicare. And if they simulate that for Medicare for all, then we still have insurance companies. So it really depends. Like the devil's in the details. What is Medicare for all? What are the details? And just like the Affordable Care Act, it will be a very lengthy bill to get all the detail in to see what actually it is.
Right.
But there is a Medicare for All Act. I mean, there is legislation to do
Yes.
this. And there
there has been for years. I mean, Bernie Sanders brings it up freaking every year, but it used to be brought up in the House.
But he never got
years.
he never got a fiscal note on it.
No,
because they didn't want to, because they didn't
Right.
want to see how expensive it was. But this study
Right.
is saying actually it'll lead to savings, but savings for Americans don't translate into a fiscal note as savings for the government necessarily. But it would save the government money.
Right. Now, I want to say something about the cynicism of a guy like Hakeem Jeffries. So the reason we're bringing the Yale study up and how much Medicare for All can do for Americans. I mean, also saving 114,000 lives, never mind the $1 trillion, 114,000 lives saved, largely because people will have health insurance. And so they won't wait around until things get so bad they have to go to the emergency room and risk death. So not Schumer, although he's just as bad as Jeffries, but that's the Senate. So Jeffries in the House, to me, this is the height of cynicism. For years before he became the leader of the Dems in the House, he would put his name as co-sponsor on these Medicare for All bills that he knew wouldn't go anywhere. The moment he became the leader, he took his name off. And he's been against Medicare for All since then. And he was on NBC last week. So we're talking 9 days ago, or early last week, talking to Kristen Welker. And she asked him about Medicare for All. And he gave this long word salad answer. I'm not going to play it because I'm going to play something else and we'll get a whole heaping help of his word salad. And so she's like, okay, just to sum up, are you going to just be against Medicare for All? And he basically says, yes, I'll play it for you so you can see.
Just to be very clear, though, as a Democratic leader in the House, would you vote for or against Medicare for All?
I think as you indicated in your question to me, it's not legislation that I currently am co-sponsoring or that I support.
Okay.
But we do support the notion that we've got to find a path forward to fix our broken healthcare system.
Jen, it's okay. He supports a notion. He supports the notion.
Okay, I think we
got to make healthcare affordable.
I think he needs to update his health policy. Okay, Dean Phillips, a Minnesotan,
God, you're nice.
Also from the East Coast.
Good
but listen,
grief.
let me just say this: Dean Phillips. Remember, he was running for president against Biden. Remember him? He was a congressman from Minnesota, very wealthy. Got his
heir
wealth
of the
from
Phillips fortune.
Fortune. Yes,
the vodka. Yeah, the
so
vodka
I will
fortune.
just say he adopted Medicare for All as part of his platform for president, and he's a conservative, moderate Republican businessman. And so I'm like, Hakeem, you got to come around. I mean, eventually, I think members of his caucus will push him to that if he wants to be Speaker of the House. Otherwise, he's not going to be the next Speaker of the House. I just don't see it. We'll see.
He's cut some deals with a lot of people. I mean, even after all this, because as if this, if this is bad enough. I mean, this is bad because majority of the Democratic base wants Medicare for All at this point. It's been Bernie Sanders'
they might call it something else,
forever,
but they want everyone to have access to health care. They're sick of it not being able to afford having their neighbors and friends and loved ones afford
that's
healthcare.
what he's saying. I mean, but I want to stop that. That language is too vague.
Yeah,
of course, everyone wants access to health care.
People might not want Medicare. I mean, it really depends how you ask the question, the polls,
right?
The opinion surveys.
I mean, we went over that
Right.
polling. I mean, for Democrats, this is what they want.
Yeah.
Clear as day. This is what they want. He is leadership in a party that wants this, and he's against it. Now, the New York Times reports, and by the way, there's some insidery stuff. So one of the New York Times most famous political reporters who just dropped a book on Donald Trump and all this insider access, Maggie Haberman.
Mhm.
Anyways, she has very close personal ties to the Kushner family, I think through her mother. So the speculation is that someone in the Kushner camp leaked this to the New York Times. Like they want Jeffries to be in trouble, or so. I don't know exactly what the maneuvering is in the background or what's going on, but so Jeffries attempted to meet in secret with Jared Kushner.
Did they actually meet?
Yes.
Okay.
They met this weekend, and we don't know what the hell they talked about.
And this was, do you think he was being set up because they were going to leak it?
I have no idea. That's one speculation I've heard, just because, one of the most famous reporters at the New York Times has a very, very close tie-in with the Kushner family. But here's the thing. Jeffries has been tight with Kushner. I don't know if friend, but certainly close acquaintance with Kushner for a long time. And since then, Jeffries is acting as though this was de rigueur for someone in his position. Now, Kushner is not officially a member of the Trump administration. He's a nobody, in the sense that nothing he does, nothing he emails, nothing he texts, nothing can be got at through a FOIA request, because he's not part of the administration. So the Freedom of Information Act doesn't apply to him. So anything that he talked to Jeffries about is behind a black box. And just today, Jeffries announced that he's putting one of the most viciously pro-Israeli Democrats. I mean, this guy is a real POS who just won his primary in Florida, Jared Moskowitz, by the way, who's in danger. I mean, he got redistricted, and now it's a Trump district, so he could very well lose.
So, but Kushner is maybe advocating for him. And that's what the meeting was about.
I suspect
and maybe
that this
Kushner asked for the meeting. Has Hakeem
Kushner
Jeffries
did ask for the meeting?
Okay,
yes.
Has Hakeem Jeffries denied the meeting?
No.
Has he confirmed it?
Yes.
And did he say anything about why they were meeting?
Yes, I'm going to play a video for you.
Okay, good.
But which it's very unimpressive. But anyway, so Kushner is the supposed head of negotiations in the Middle East in general. I mean, he was one of the two lead negotiators, along with Trump's golfing buddy, with Iran. And Kushner just came back from Israel and the supposed board of peace representative to stop the genocide in Gaza, which of course he doesn't acknowledge as a genocide. But, I have no doubt that this conversation was all about Israel. But also, I mean, I think Jeffries and Kushner have a common enemy, which is the left wing of the Democratic Party. I think Jeffries. I
don't know if that's why they were meeting, but I will say
we have to speculate about what they were talking about.
It's about
and
Israel.
Why
Israel.
They met. Yeah, of course. But
and if Kushner wanted something from Hakeem Jeffries, it was probably disappointment.
Yeah, but why would they meet? Like, why would Jeffries just go meet with them?
Israel asked Jared Kushner to meet with Hakeem Jeffries to make this request. He is representing Israel in this case.
But you asked me, why would Jeffries agree to do it? And I'm telling you that they have a common enemy. I will play the clip, but I'm serious about this. They have a common enemy, which is the left of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, that's your opinion, but let's
Yes, it is.
Let's play the clip.
Now, before I hit play, I mean, what is this?
I didn't even recognize them.
Yeah. First of all, learn how to size your hat. Second of all, is it mid-March?
Curved.
Is it St. Patrick's Day?
Okay, hit play.
What's up, y'all? Just finished up an event here in the community in Brooklyn. I want to give you a little real talk on this Jared Kushner situation. He asked for a meeting, and I took it to discuss the affordability crisis that exists that is not a hoax.
Okay, first of all, you don't need to tell Americans that the affordability crisis is not a hoax. Who is this for?
Okay, I agree. Keep going.
And who the hell believes that they talked about it for? Jared Kushner, famously down with the people.
At the same period of time, I shouldn't have to say it, but I am. No one is going to get a pass We're going to hold every single member of the Trump cartel accountable.
How believable is that?
He probably needed to immediately respond because this was floating on social media, and so this is why this is a very unprofessional video. But keep
Well,
going.
and he also said why it probably shouldn't need to be said. Yeah,
I
but
know.
you do need to say it because of your actions, buddy.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Beginning on day one. If you're stealing from the American people, short
Oh, this website
the
is
American
closed.
people, or screwing over the American people, you're going to be held accountable. We're going to follow the facts, apply the law, and be guided by the Constitution, beginning on day one. And
He's not explaining why he met with Jared Kushner.
No, he never
Okay.
goes back to that. But
Okay, I don't want to hear the rest of it.
no. This is important.
Ugh.
But beginning on day one, it's like, buddy, you're in Congress. You're the leader of the Democrats in Congress. What is this day one bullshit? I mean, obviously he's talking
Day
about
one
winning
when
the House
they
back.
have the control of the House, yeah.
But
That's what
it's
he's
like,
talking about. Their agenda.
I know
in
that's what he's
January.
talking
Okay,
about, but
yeah.
it's just it's like he's admitting that he's done nothing about this. Anyways, this continues to be very eye-opening, this whole thing.
hold the crooks accountable. And that's what we've done as House Democrats from the beginning of this Congress.
He just said we're going to start on day one, but now he's saying we've been doing it.
He's unscripted. This is what happens when they don't have a script sometimes. Oh,
No, he's simply prevaricating, shall we say. But this is now listen to this list. He's about to do a list here, I think, if I remember correctly.
Battle the Trump administration on tariffs. Battle them on Medicaid. Battle them on Epstein. Battle them on nutritional assistance. Battle them on the Affordable Care Act. Battle them on the reckless war of choice in Iran. Battle them on ICE funding, and battle them on the unprecedented corruption unleashed on the American people.
Battle, battle, battle.
Mm-hmm. He's even holding his phone the wrong direction, so it's a bad video frame.
Well, whatever. I mean, this battling bit, it's like, first of all, he slow walked, the Iran one especially. He did his best to prevent that Iran war power resolution thing from even getting to the floor. He worked to block that from happening. What do you mean battle? He aided and abetted, not battled. I mean, he's just lying about his record. But anyways, so
we should
what is
not
all
go
this?
after Democrats for lying. I mean, oh my gosh, look at the Republicans. I'm not going to beat up on Democrats. I will just say that it's interesting
guy
I met
is
with Jared
allowing
Kushner, and I will
Republicans.
just say, okay, if I were in his position and Jared Kushner asked for a meeting, I'd kind of want to take it to find out what he wants. But you know, the saying, keep your enemies close. Maybe he could get some intel from Jared Kushner. I don't know. I wouldn't be upset about him meeting with Jared Kushner.
He did it in
I wouldn't
secret.
give him anything. If he asked for something, I would probably say no, depending on what it was. But yeah.
Yeah, first of all,
Did it in
you
secret.
didn't take
It wasn't
this.
a secret. I mean, his whole schedule is usually public. So
No,
I
this
don't think
meeting
there are
was meant to
secrets.
be a secret.
Mm.
This was a secret meeting, Jen. He
Mhm.
should not be taking it
Mm.
unless it was public and they had a public description of what was covered.
Mhm.
But he's not talking about what they talked about. He said they talked
Then why
about
are we-
affordability
okay.
and nobody believes him. No, this is
Yeah,
important
are they
because
talking
I
about the
think
island that Kushner couldn't buy?
in Albania. No, I think that, I mean, the reason I'm so pissed is because this is the reason Democrats lose. We need to
Yes.
understand what the hell is going
Yeah.
on. We
Yeah.
do need to beat up on this guy because he is
This is-
responsible for so much bad.
This
so
is not a
much.
strong position to go into the midterms with on messaging. I'll just say that. You need to be a leader of your caucus and you need to be on message. This is not on message. It is not a very strong delivery of it.
Well, that's him to a T.
So
But anyway, so there's all this battling. He's battling, which nobody believes him, by the way. It's this is very unimpressive. There's no charisma here. There's just zero. But anyways, let's continue.
And we've delivered results. Pam Bondi is gone.
To be replaced by? Even worse. Pam Bondi. Okay, one of the women that Trump got rid of. Let's see who else he's going to name.
Kristi Noem is gone. And with
Carolyn Levitt, who left on her own.
to be replaced by Markwayne Mullen. I mean, another one of the women that Donald Trump simply replacing the women in his cabinet.
The worst
with
one.
men.
I mean, the folks in the cabinet that you think would be replaced have not at all. So Patel, Hegseth, interesting.
Right. I mean, he's saying these are wins that the Democrats got. Not really. I mean, Jesus. They dug their own graves, and Trump
he's
got
replacing
rid of
them with people that are more loyal. That's
yeah,
not a win
and
for
potentially
America.
even worse if that's possible.
Unqualified.
just getting started. At the same period of time, affordability crisis in this country is very real.
We know. He's saying, who is this for?
I just play the whole clip through so I can hear the whole
It needs
message.
to be dealt with. I hear about it every day. In the community in Brooklyn and all across the country, wherever I may be, people are drowning in this failed economy and are demanding action. We have a responsibility to deal with the fact that life is too expensive. Far too many people are stressed the F out when it's time to go to the grocery store, pay the rent, or put gas in the tank. That's crazy. That should not be happening in the United States of America, and we have a responsibility to address it. And that's what we intend to do.
Oh, he's not saying how they're going to do that. I think you don't need to explain how expensive things are. People know. They want to know, how are you going to make my life better and fix it? Because you're not doing anything about it. He didn't even blame the Republicans for it, though, Sam. He didn't even say this is Republicans' fault why you can't afford gas and food and rent, and you can't buy a house or build a house because things are expensive because of the tariffs. This was a very poor quality, poor messaging.
And this was his response
I hope
to the Kushner meeting.
I hope
we've already forgotten that.
I hope he's taking it off social media because it's.
No, that's
he
up.
said he's just getting out of a community meeting, which people were probably complaining. I'm like, they want answers, not
Why are you wearing that to a community meeting?
I don't know. Let's not.
Your St. Patrick's Day outfit, but no, that's on his Twitter. That's from his Twitter page.
Wow.
That's directly. That's currently posted.
I don't follow him on Twitter, so. Anyway, okay, Sam, we got to end it because I had to go cook dinner for my kiddo. But any positive news, man? This was just a downer of a Tuesday.
Well,
do we have any updates on the special election in South Carolina? Because we got Lindsey
Graham's sister.
Lindsey Graham's sister. Why do I keep forgetting her name? It starts with a D. Darlene, because that name, I don't know any Darlenes. I don't have it up on my.
Yeah, I'm getting it up.
South Carolina. I know polls close at 7 Eastern.
Yeah, she's ahead with 10% of the vote in. She's
only
ahead
10%. Okay.
Well, she's ahead 13 points with 10%
probably win.
of the
Trump was there stumping for her a lot, telling folks, even though he's not on the ballot, you better vote.
Yeah.
So if she loses, if she loses, it's a huge upset for Trump because he's going out of his way to get her elected.
Yeah, he pulled out all the stops for her.
Said,
at the end of the day,
so many great things about Trump, right? Like I might not know about national security, but this might be my first elected position. But look at our president; he's doing damn good. I think she said. And he was never, before he got elected to president, he was never in office, blah, blah, blah. So no, Trump, I mean, she's going to be very loyal to Trump if she wins.
Well, she's also inexperienced, and she has her brother's staff who are in tight with all these, lobbyists and stuff. So she's just going to wind up doing whatever they say, which is whatever the lobbyists
her
want.
brother stood up for immigration reform and policy for a path to citizenship. She said
Not
how she
really.
differentiates herself from him is he wasn't hard enough on immigrants. That's what she said.
He was pretty hard on immigrants. I mean,
I know,
to say
but that's what she
that he
said.
was a
That's what she
light in the
said.
Republican Party.
Yeah,
well,
whatever.
I mean, she's grasping at straws. But anyways, I see this headline that came across. Mike Lindell refuses to pay for the recount in the Minnesota GOP primary.
Okay, let's end on
files
that.
a lawsuit.
That's good news because he can't afford it because he's bankrupt.
But he's filed a lawsuit against election officials nevertheless. So he's paying for the lawsuit, just not paying for
the recount. Because he
Which,
knows that
you
it's
know,
a
how are you
valid
gonna
election, and
overturn
he lost by
35,000 votes or
lots of
whatever.
votes.
So
A lot. So anyway, okay, Sam, I got to check out. Tomorrow we have a lot more news to talk about because we didn't get to everything today. And we'll talk
we got
about
a
the
lot
special
of
election.
electoral stuff coming up next week. We have
No, Thursday we have a great guest.
And Thursday we have an awesome guest coming on. So we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about electorally tomorrow. So to give you a little teaser, something going on in Massachusetts, very similar to what just happened in Minnesota's 2nd congressional district. Same kind of hinky, crazy, weird money situation going on, and people pretending they take stances on issues when in fact they don't. And it's ugly, folks. And we'll get into that and more tomorrow. So on behalf of Jen Schultz, I'm Sam Martin, and this has been Our Dissent.